And boom, according to that, I am live. Welcome. This is Tokyo Tonight. My name is Hiko Simon. It's good to see you all in here, especially given that this is not the normal night. I have plans for Sunday night, which is unusual. The reason I do the show normally on Sunday is that there's less of a chance of something coming up on life. If I commit to doing it every week on Saturday, then I can't ever see friends on a Saturday or go out on a Saturday night, which is kind of okay. I don't have that much of a life. But tomorrow is one of those unique circumstances where Sunday is the day that I have friends who I haven't seen in ages are meeting up. So unfortunately, but kind of fortunately because of that, it made sense to do it tonight. And I must admit, as I'm preparing for this, one thing I've really been struggling with lately is whenever I do the show and then the after party, I think I've said on the show, I enjoy the after party a lot. I get adrenaline. I get excited. I want to listen to the music back after it's done, but it's already midnight, and I often don't sleep before like 1:30, 2 a.m. But I have to get up at like 6:30 a.m. and go to work, and I'm like destroyed every Monday. So what I like about this, and that I will definitely be doing tonight, is I get to DJ, and I can DJ until 1:30 or 2 a.m. or whatever. I won't last that long, but I can sleep in a little bit tomorrow morning. So that is good. It does take a bit of the pressure of Monday morning off being able to do it at this time this week. What I'm planning to do with the show, however, for people who didn't know about the change of schedule this week, I think I'm going to take the recording of this show and I will post it as a premiere tomorrow night. So people watching this on Sunday, Japan Sunday night, sorry, the show was live on Saturday, but yes, I just had other plans this week, so I will post this. I'll repost this video. So I'm just going to do this live, and then I'm going to take it down, and then I will set it for a live premiere at the normal time tomorrow night so that people can watch along, although I will not be participating, I'm afraid, in the comments. But you can still watch it live and enjoy for those people who like to have this as part of their Sunday morning routine, as some people in Europe and America seem to like doing. Anyway, we do have tons of people already here. We've got Cobra Tenshi. I did have tech squirrels. I had a problem with the camera, and it was a StreamYard problem, so I had to reset everything a couple of times. But we made it, so there we go. Shuba's tech issues, situation normal then. Exactly, that is it. Quentin Rankin, good that I can see you. You now have no fear. This is like Cheers. This is like you come in, everybody's got their catchphrase. I do like this. And that is factually true. I am no longer afraid. I was afraid, but when I saw Shubas was there, I knew everything was going to be okay. No one expects a Spanish Inquisition. That is also true. Dopamine Rush says, DJ Sunny Side Up. By the way, if you haven't, I posted a link earlier. Go over to Tokyo Digital Crew and check out the latest MASH battle. And I say this because I genuinely think Sunny and I are both getting better at doing the mashes, and I genuinely feel this week like both of us have put sort of, I don't know, we've done cool things through each week, but I feel like this is a week where we're both like on the highest level at the same time, and it feels to me like nobody's got a technical advantage, nobody's got a, this is like purely we're both doing great mashes that I would be proud to have his, and hopefully Sunny would be proud to have mine. I love my own mash, but I feel like we're competing kind of evenly in terms of, and it comes down to purely people are choosing based on what they like, what they are feeling and enjoying hearing, which is how I want it to be every week. I don't want it to be because somebody did something technically better than someone else. And I think we've both lifted each other up to a point that we're both doing really well. So much respect and kudos to DJ Sunny Side Up. It is, this is part of the goal, right? We're having a ton of fun. We're getting better while enjoying it and loving it, and I'm seeing the reactions, and everybody I think seems to be acknowledging as well in the comments that we made a really good one this week. So 90 seconds, 2 samples, vote A or B, the Coca-Cola Pepsi test, and Sunny, you'll have to take care, because I'll be out tomorrow, so you have to take care of posting the winning video. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. So please, I appreciate people getting there and vote. Sadiq, great to see you here. Anyway, great to have you. Oh, Erin made it. Good morning on a Saturday morning. So yes, this allows me to party on Sunday. I don't know if that's actually better. What it really does let me do, though, it does let me party tonight. My absence of a social life means that I will be able to, yes, both party with you all on my night, including a proper DJing set, and I will be able to sleep in the morning and not be destroyed on Monday. So, or if I am destroyed on Monday, it'll be for other reasons. So, yes, that'll be fun. Also, Black Tengu, a man from Greece. Good to have you in here. Will this be the new time then? I won't. I must admit, I'm debating in my head. Should I just shift the show to Saturday this time? Because there are advantages to it, but the biggest disadvantage is that I lose control over a big part of my life. This is basically the only day of the week. Because and I've got a routine on Sunday. I take my son out for dinner. I do other things, and I prep for the show. But I must admit, there are advantages to Saturday that might make me reconsider this and make this the time. But for now, no, this is a one-off, but we'll see. Dan H, good to see you, of course, as always. We've got Hiko wants more of a sense of what his audience wants, so that's why he's winning more often, is your theory. I don't know. It's kind of funny. I mean, I pay attention. I think Sonny's got a good sense of what the audience wants as well. Plus, a lot of the people in the audience are people that follow his live streams as well. And actually, what I will tell you is I take that into account when I make meshes. I do think, what would Sonny's audience like? And I think I've actually kind of hit gold. Sometimes, going for like honestly cheap wins, like going for Insane in the Brain by Cypress Hill. I feel like that's a trump card that you only really can play once in a mesh, and I played it. I think I won with that one. No, I think we're both playing music that we just like, but we'll see. Anyway, what kind of a sandwich, asks Aaron. Did I mention sandwich? I don't know. But anyway, my theory is that I made a deal with the devil. Well, I've been on a bit of a winning streak. I mean, I do make fun of it in the trash talking part of the video, but no, I think Sonny and I are just enjoying doing it. So anyway, we've got all of that. So I'm going to do after party where I'm going to play some of my own music for a change, although I will take requests. But tonight I'm going to be totally selfish. I'm going to party because it's my party. It's my party. And Saturday night, if it's not Sunday, I've got a ton of new music that I haven't even DJ'd or made mixes of. Some other personal stuff. Actually, I've mentioned I do want to start doing a series on running. I haven't had the time to sort of sit down and get it. I have made a kind of a plan for the videos that I want to make. But one thing that's interesting, I am waiting to hear if I made the Tokyo Marathon again, and I will try to beat my last time by 1 minute, see if I can get that 3.5 hour marathon in. But I've actually spent, since after the Tokyo Marathon, it's generally for people in my age, getting late 40s, that they say you should be focusing on strength and, for longevity and for health. It's not so much cardio, which just wears you out. Yeah, you should actually be sort of building up muscle. And I've never really done that. I've always just enjoyed doing running and Muay Thai and sort of movement-based exercise. But I thought, well, since I got used to using treadmills and spending all this time in the gym, I did. And it's actually been kind of like, for the first time in my life, I have upper body. It's kind of cool. It's kind of I feel a little bit narcissistic when I I look in the mirror after a shower or something. I'm like, whoa. And I took the next step, the next big step in that journey today, in my effort to become as successful a vlogger as Joe Rogan. I bought creatine. I took my first dose of this today, so I expect that I will be turning into Randy, the Macho Man Randy Savage, probably in about 3 weeks. I'll be turning into sort of a cross of those. Apparently it is good for the brain as well as the muscles. I'm not planning to bulk up more than I am because I do like running and I don't want to put on too much extra weight. But at the same time, I have guns. I've never had guns before. These have always been like twigs. So I'm having a lot of fun with that, and strength training is something that you should do when you run because it prevents injury. So I am enjoying that. So yes, if I seem more Joe Rogan like in the future, if I'm getting, it is not steroids, but if I get roid rage, I'll check what the substance of my creatine is because it might have the wrong stuff. That's why I'm wearing the ashes. Yeah, well, I'm enjoying this. I'm not just wearing by the way, I'm wearing the tank tops because it is 37 degrees here tomorrow. It was like 36 degrees today. You cannot like exist in Tokyo. This is the time of year. Do not come to Japan in summer because it is awful, and that is why I am dressing like this. It is purely practical and not because of the incredible, not because of the guns. DJ Sunny Side Up. I don't know. I started taking this today. So if if the creatine improves my mashes, maybe you'll have to take it as well. But we'll see what happens. Anyway, into the topics. Again, summer vacations in Japan, so Parliament's closed. There sort of isn't a lot going on news-wise, and I haven't really been following it as closely as well because I've been doing my own thing. However, let's go through the topics, and as always, you can send me squirrels to chase. You can make requests, comments, you can just distract me. Remember, make a comment, direct it at me, and I will do my best to respond to it because we're here to talk. So yeah, here's the MASH battle this week. We are F1 races, and we'll see. We'll see. Can Sonny turn it around? Can he turn around the winning streak? Who knows? Dan H is having a 3-star Michelin meal, wine, and Japanese news. Can't ask for more this afternoon. Wow. You're having a 3-star Michelin meal. Holy crap. That's like, and this is in London, right? That sounds wonderful. Don't come to Greece in August either. I've heard that about Greece. I would love to go to Greece. But don't worry, I'm not going to escape Japan to go to Greece. Jumping out of the fry pan into the fire, I think would be the expression for that. So yes, indeed. Wow, I'm honored that you consider this equivalent to a 3-star Michelin meal. I hope that you're enjoying it, Dan H. So apparently, I actually missed this last week. Apparently, the train that goes out to the Osaka Expo broke down a couple of weeks ago. And it being Obon, it being the holiday time of year when people are going and visiting their hometowns to go look after the family graves and so on, there were extra sort of tourists that were in the expo, the Osaka Expo pavilion when the trains broke down, which resulted, we now know from cell phone data, that 10,000 people spent the night sleeping on the ground at the Osaka Expo, which, you know, in the middle of a summer where the temperatures barely go down below 30 degrees Celsius at night and are humid, that is bad. I hadn't heard about this, but that is pretty awful. People had to sleep on the ground at the Osaka Expo because the train there broke down. People pointing out there's never a good time for the train to break down, but that seems pretty awful. That said, I mean, I am hearing, for all the initial skepticism about the Osaka Expo, yeah, it seems to be going really well. It's got a good reputation. It's not quite hitting the numbers of visitors that they were hoping for. The other thing is, it's funny, I've met people who have traveled to Japan recently, and I think that this has always been true, but I've had it validated even by recent tourists. And I mean this as well. I've only been to Osaka a couple of times, but it always stands out to me going from Tokyo to Osaka how Osaka is genuinely more friendly. People are nice. You're on the train and you hear people laughing and talking to each other. You know, Tokyo, the F-off vibes when you come to Tokyo. Coming back from America to Tokyo, the reverse culture shock I got in Tokyo was just how stressed out and, you know, passive-aggressive everybody is in all the crowds. There's too many people. Osaka is just a genuinely fun, cool place to be. It's a much more manageable city. It is a big city, but it's not like Tokyo, which is just insanely big. You need a couple of weeks to even figure out the geography of Tokyo. So Osaka is a great place to go to, and the fact that it's got the Universal theme park and it's got the expo and everything else, I would recommend. I obviously try to not go too close to closing time in case the train breaks down, because I would not recommend sleeping on the ground anywhere in Osaka, especially the expo, but you should definitely go there. And yeah, Osaka-jin are great people. Oh, they shut down that Escort Street. Was that Escort Street in Osaka? I mean, I'm pretty sure everywhere has their Escort Street, but yeah, who knows? I mean, I don't know, how would that even work? But the image of Osaka also is that people always haggle. I don't know if people haggle on that street and I'd love to hear what that conversation sounds like. But yes, Osaka is a great place. Okonomiyaki and Osakan food is great. So yeah, also basically Osaka, the prefecture beside Osaka, where Osaka people go to the beach, is Wakayama. And Wakayama is also the home of Taiji, which is the famous town where they every year go out and slaughter all the dolphins. And where Sea Shepherd and other groups, foreigners and activists, will come in and try to obstruct the hunt, where they basically sort of funnel. They basically use noise to sort of scare dolphins into a channel, where they'll then go and sort of mass slaughter them in The Cove, the movie The Cove. I've seen The Cove. the fact this is sort of associated, and it's kind of true, I suppose, that while there occasionally are Japanese that join in, these are generally foreign NGOs that engage in this. So the police, obviously with many, many things to do, in fact, Coast Guard in this case, are now practicing engaging with and stopping Greenpeace protesters from protesting dolphin slaughter. They simulated this in a mock training. So instead of wearing a polar bear costume or whatever they normally do, they have someone holding a placard in English, which I suppose is accurate. I mean, I suppose it's fair. This is probably better than the zoo drills. Yes, I don't know. This feels like they had a little bit too much time, but it's a reminder that this problem actually exists. And it makes me wonder, I mean, why the hell does the Coast Guard need to like double sandwich an inflatable boat from someone who doesn't like dolphins being slaughtered? I mean, there's a lot of sensitive sort of cultural stuff. Remember, they do eat the dolphin meat for what it's worth, although, of course, you know, if you're a fan of the 1960s TV show Flipper, and you don't think that they should be eating dolphin, well, I would say I'd say you should probably look at your broader choices if you eat meat. But at the same time, yeah. Anyway, that is a thing that happened. Pit maneuvers with boats, indeed. Fukuoka. Well, Fukuoka, actually, Fukuoka for me is my Japanese hometown, and I love Fukuoka. Fukuoka has the Osaka friendliness, but it's not as crazy as it's actually, you talk about a city that is compact and well put together. Fukuoka is considered, I think Sapporo, Fukuoka, and Sendai, at least before the earthquake, were considered the best places in Japan to live. And Fukuoka for me is a place I could consider. It's big enough and has everything, so I would consider living there as someone used to Tokyo. But it's also small enough, it's a lot friendlier. So absolutely good call, Black Tengu. Not Flipper. Well, if Flipper is anywhere near where this is happening, Flipper better get the hell out of there. Interesting that asking why Fukuoka, maybe that question. Fukuoka is it's a fantastic, it's got the good climate, it's a great size. It's basically like the Tokyo of Kyushu. It's where businesses and everyone gets together for the whole island of Kyushu, which is an entirely big friendly island. And it has the Western Japan sort of friendly culture, but also it has all the aggregated investment in business and development. The city is really well run. Unlike Tokyo, there are really nice beaches, like right on Fukuoka, where you can swim safely in the ocean, as well as nature, onsen, you know, all that sort of stuff, great food. So yeah, Fukuoka is a great city. Anyway, next story that we have, it sort of pointed out, there's a few articles this week going on that the continued, and in fact, maybe more pertinent, I think, is a little bit further on, where the Mainichi Shimbun actually put out an editorial where, yes, it seems like in reaction to the recent election where San Seito, I just realized I didn't turn on my lights today. I should probably looking a little bit more shadowy than usual. Oh, yeah, colors look a bit better like that. So as you know, in the recent Japanese election, some far right-wing parties came out sort of saying, you know, that particularly with the influx of under the apprenticeship worker schemes and so on, and schemes to encourage sort of low, frankly, necessary jobs in lower paying industries like agriculture and factories and so on. There's a lot of they're not thinking about tourists, and they're not really thinking particularly about high paid professionals or anything like that. They're thinking about Vietnamese and Southeast Asian and other people who are coming into work and do sort of the jobs that basically towns need to keep their local businesses going, but that aren't attractive enough to attract people away from the cities to come and fill those jobs. So they're filling them with foreigners. And that produces the inevitable unease that some people are feeling, both with the higher visibility of foreigners, of tourists being around, and the fact that all of a sudden there's a lot of the people on lower income suddenly living there who, you know, don't speak Japanese, who are appearing in towns where they're highly visible. And some people are uncomfortable with that. And some of the right-wing parties, as happens all over the world, actually, has been happening forever all over the world. But now the phenomenon has spread to Japan that some people are saying, hey, we don't want to have those foreigners over here. And, you know, maybe, can you really trust them? And can we, maybe we should be putting more controls on them because they're dangerous or something like that. Let's presume that they're dangerous and so on. And it's kind of dangerous and unhelpful rhetoric, but unfortunately, because there isn't much of a history of debating immigration in Japan, a lot of people thought, yeah, that sounds like a good idea, and voted for the Sanseito, which did that. 15% of votes went to them. That part of it is disappointing, but understandable. There's always going to be some people who don't really think things through and support people and parties that advocate for that sort of thing without thinking about the broader why this is necessary in the first place, and maybe these people are real humans that should have some measure of rights just the same as everybody else. But the problem here is that based on that 15% of votes going to people who are concerned about immigration and foreign residents in Japan, all of a sudden, where this really hasn't been an issue the whole time I've lived in Japan until now, the Japanese government seems to be reacting by saying, oh, we should act to address those concerns of people who vote for those people. And maybe just to avoid Sanseito getting more popular on this, we should take the issue away by actually the LDP saying maybe ourselves, we should be imposing more restrictions on how freely foreigners can live and do things in Japan. Not going as far as Sanseito saying that they should put limits on the number of foreigners living in each town and prefecture, but talking about, for example, treating them differently, like, for example, collecting taxes from foreigners early because some foreigners leave before annual health care-related taxes or pensions are collected, which means that they leave with those underpaid, and they have trouble, obviously, recalling them when those people don't live in Japan anymore and things like that. So saying we want to pre-collect them, which, basically means different treatment based on the suspicion, based on a mistrust, and increasing restrictions on foreign residents. The government is now seriously considering this, and the Mainichi Shimbun, which is a kind of traditionally more left-wing paper and a little bit more socially enlightened, says what should be obvious, which is that to the extent the government is thinking about policies about foreign residents, they should be focusing on making sure that people, get along and work together, rather than thinking about ways we can restrict their rights and control them, because that's not going to do. Japanese society cannot function without foreigners. Policies for living together with them are needed. So they should be focusing on making it easier to coexist, and for foreigners to adapt to living in Japan, not on restricting them. Essentially, it's this phenomenon of which happens with the Abe assassination and happens with other things, of kind of rewarding terrorists with knee-jerk reactions, validating things that really should just be challenged or should be addressed without the need for sort of extremists to be able to claim ownership of the topic. So this is another case where, this debate is now all of a sudden a lot of people who sort of have kind of often irrational views about foreigners feeling now confident speaking up. And apparently on the bullet train, the free magazine on the bullet train includes a magazine saying, don't... the problem of rapidly increasing numbers of foreigners, don't just say that, diversity and living together is a good thing. And apparently, and again, the summary by Noah Oskal, who works for Unseen Japan, saying that kind of has anecdotes of some people complaining about noisy neighbors who are inconsiderate, like vacuuming and cleaning up after they get home from work late at night, which, by the way, happens with Japanese people as well, and also saying that most Vietnamese immigrants have forged their documents. So, this is sort of the sort of stuff which is unfortunately, and there have always been people that think and say these things online and whatever. They've always been kind of small and fringe, but I think they're feeling a bit validated right now. And what I don't like is the Japanese government kind of taking these concerns like they're serious and trying to appear to be addressing them instead of saying, no, that's bullshit. That's what they really should be saying. Oh, we've got more people in the chat. Who have we got in here? We've got Lara has made it. Nice to see you here in the chat. Nice beaches. Well, by nice beaches, I mean nice beaches. And I think no amount of New Zealand accent can change the meaning of that. Here we've got Lara. We've got, who have we got? Blackpilled in here. We've got Believe. We've got Believe in Yourself. We've got Believe in Yourself. Wow, people rocking in. Again, apologies for the change of day. I've got plans for tomorrow night, so I appreciate everybody rocking in and doing this. doing this with me at a different time. Plus, as I've said earlier, I am enjoying to having an after party where I get to play more of my own music and stay up late and sleep in tomorrow and not be destroyed at work on Monday. But I'm still going to be keeping to Sunday because I often have plans on Saturdays. Yeah, that works best, but this week is a bit different. And by the way, also for those people, I will be reposting this video as a premiere for tomorrow night for people who want to watch at the regular time. Apparently something here, there's been a study that trains in Japan have stayed less congested since the pandemic. So there was some sort of, I don't know why the line would go like this before, but the sort of capacity, the green line is capacity apparently, and the red line is the congestion rate. And even after the pandemic, during the pandemic, of course, it crashed when people were not using trains, but it hasn't come back to the same level of people using the trains, even though there's more capacity. I'd still say in the morning on the Yamanote line and other train lines, the train lines are still crowded and you don't want to be on the trains in Tokyo. I'd also say that, yeah, when basically everybody was told that everybody else has a highly contagious and potentially fatal disease that you can get from having them breathe on you, everyone sort of didn't quite, it was already bad enough suffering being pressed up against the faces of oji-sans whose breaths that you can smell on the train and all the concerns associated with that. But when the possibility that that might kill you was raised, yeah, a lot of people didn't want to ride the trains anymore. People got bicycles. People found other ways of getting to work. And it means in a way that the trains are a little bit less crowded now than they were. Certainly coming back to using the trains after 2 years and going into work. And the paranoia, the fact that, when you can smell things that you don't, it's not like the trains are full of farts and halitosis, but sometimes they are. And when you have that, you're thinking, not only if I can smell these particles that have gone from the inside of a person to the outside of a person and they're unpleasant and I'm experiencing them, they could include diseases. They could include airborne stuff. So yeah, it took me probably until this year that I stopped wearing masks on the train. A lot of people still do. Because you immediately feel like, yes, you're not only dealing with all the other unpleasantness of being stuck on a train with people, but the idea that you might get sick. So, in a way, it's probably leading to people being a bit healthier, perhaps, although this time of year, I don't know if cycling, I know people who do cycle to work, who started cycling to work at my work. But yeah, some good news, at least in Tokyo, that the trains are not as crowded as they were before the pandemic. It hasn't gone back to it. But that is the thing, the smell of oji-sans. Yes, I think you'd have trouble selling a product that was called that, but there you go. Next story that I have in here, there's a town called Toyoake, which I had to look up. Apparently it's like a Hachioji of Nagoya. It's like an outer suburb of Nagoya. It's a separate city, but it's attached to, so people who work in Nagoya sleep there and they commute in and out. Apparently the town of the city of Toyoake, in its infinite wisdom, has passed an ordinance with the recommendation that adults should not that anybody living in Toyoake, including adults, should not use smartphones for more than 2 hours, and when they use it, they should use it for educational purposes only. I'm wondering, why would I assume what kind of small village of 90-year-old people is this? I mean, why not put restrictions on reading books as well? We need our smartphones, people. So I'm wondering, well, what the hell is wrong with this? Apparently it is a normal-ish sort of a city. I looked up its Wikipedia page. It is a city of 69,000 people. Nice. And apparently it's been growing rapidly since, I was wondering, was it a declining, dying town that wants to scare away the final young people that are there? And apparently no, even though everywhere in Japan the population is declining, it has been rapidly increasing in population. It's gone from like 3,000 people to 69,000 people in like 60 years. So they're actually doing quite well, which makes it baffling why they would suddenly put in like an anyone who, young enough to use a smartphone. Anyone under 60, which would be considered young in a lot of places in Japan, would probably object to being, there is no penalty associated with this ordinance, by the way, but what could make people think that this was even good? So that's right. That's right. All you could do, if you're in Toyoake today, thank you for allocating your 2 hours to spend it with me. I'd like to think that this is educational. Seb, you're exactly correct. So if you, with a technical issue, it's right, you could breach your quota. My theory on this that I have put into my post is that the city is trying to stem growth, the population growth that it's been experiencing to maintain its population of 69,000. Maybe they like the number. Maybe that's just they don't want to let people get any, they don't want the city to get any bigger. That's my theory. But yes, stupid people are everywhere, including Japan. It's probably good to know. German trains smell like after 3 p.m. They smell like natto. Oh, was that natto? Yeah. Anyway, I'm sure they don't smell good. And Lara doing her bit to contribute to the train situation, I guess, in Tokyo. But yes, thank you for sharing. We have, what else do we have going on? So yes, be nice to foreigners, please. Two interesting stories side by side. Again, on the foreigner situation, the former governor of Osaka who set up the Osaka First, the Nippon Ishin no Kai political party, kind of charismatic. He's become like a TV personality. He was basically on a live TV show, one of these live talk shows, kind of like a Japanese version of a sort of a, like video podcast before they really have those things online. And they showed a kind of a TV clip showing foreigners like smoking in the street and, dropping rubbish and, blocking entrances with suitcases and all the trouble that they come, saying that these are problems that have increased because of the number of foreign tourists using Airbnbs and basically minpaku, these sort of, home converted home lodgings that became available for Osakan residents to be able to lend out to let foreign tourists come and experience, enjoy Osaka. And again, while the governor probably could point out somebody could point out the flip side that the tourism boom in Osaka has been beneficial to the economy, and by and large, the tourists who go there well-behaved, respectful people that contribute to the economy. He saw the video clip, and in the response to it, he says, yes, I apologize for allowing Airbnbs, given the degradation of the environment and the increase in, and safety in Osaka. I regret allowing more Airbnbs and lodgings in Osaka, and I apologize for it. Which, I don't know, maybe he thought that was a politically savvy thing to say. To me, it's kind of lame. I mean, basically, okay. I mean, I would still say Osaka is a place you should absolutely go to in Japan, even though you may be trapped at the Osaka Expo and the governor doesn't want you there anymore. But that said, and Airbnbs as well, I don't know a lot about, because obviously I live in Japan, so I don't spend a lot of time looking up Airbnbs, but I've been helping find Airbnbs for friends and stuff like that. And there are some really, really cool ones. Like, I must admit, I actually, having done a couple of times helping like look up Airbnbs and so on, and seeing what's around and how competitive they are with, frankly, overpriced and crappy business hotels, which is what I've always used in Japan. Airbnbs are great. So, I mean, don't be one of the foreigners that, I mean, we say this always, don't be one of the English teachers that, tosses their garbage off the balcony and, results in no foreigners being allowed into the building anymore after. We used to have the gaijin smashers. Don't be someone who comes here and acts like an asshole because you figure you're not going to be here in a couple of days anyway, because the rest of us, including especially those who live here, take the consequences of that. So please act like an ambassador for your country. But at the same time, the sort of moral outrage and panic about the Airbnbs is probably a bit overstated in Osaka. And in fact, the same thread, I think the next story that I saw was from Tokyo Cheapo, talking about how to pick a good Airbnb in Tokyo. There's not really a lot to it, honestly. There's only one thing to take into consideration about a good Airbnb, frankly. There's no real traps. And for all the stuff that they write, the common mistakes, that's it. Location, location, location. Just make sure that you are, one, in a location that you want to be in, and two, that you're not in a location you don't want to be in. If you're in the middle of Kabukicho, it's going to be noisy. If you want to be in Shinjuku, but you see it's cheaper if you get a place that's 25 minutes walk away, I can tell you a 25-minute walk is extremely inconvenient and unpleasant. I mean, nowhere in Tokyo really has a 25-minute walk. You can normally, you'd be able to get to 2 stations in that time, but if you're walking more than 10 minutes, it's inconvenient if you've got suitcases and so on. So you just have to figure out where you should be, and just bear in mind that pricing will pretty much correspond to, if a price is, looks really good, if it looks like really good value, it's probably far away in an inconvenient location. You just have to assess, is that location good for me? Areas to avoid, there are no areas to avoid, and it says this here as well. It depends on what you want to experience. So I actually think that Airbnbs are awesome and are worth looking up. And all you know, all the sort of websites that do this, a number of options for this. I looking at it myself, it's like, wow, I want to have a vacation in Tokyo. These places look really cool. So there are very good options anyway. Stale beer and piss. Well, I hope that they're only drinking the beer. Okay, I didn't know that about Germany, so there we go. Also, Unseen Japan, generally awesome people. They've put a nice history of let me pull this up, a nice history of gun control and weapon control in Japan. Of course, Japan basically has no guns, and some people think maybe it was a post-World War II disarming Japan thing. And it really wasn't. The context of arms control in Japan really goes back to the 15th or 16th century, where Japan was like permanently a country of warlords and samurais and civil wars and stuff like that. So when Japan was first unified, the first thing that they did was they had to make sure that no one else was going to come and do exactly what the unifiers of Japan did, which is basically kick everybody's asses and take everything over. So they basically collected all the swords way back then. And right now, the firearms and swords laws that Japan has kind of extend back beyond even modern Japan. These are like some of the first national laws that Japan had, was to collect all of these. So it kind of goes into the 1588 sword hunt where they went and confiscated everybody's guns in Japan. And of course, after World War II as well. But yes, and for people who fear that a society without guns will be some kind of hellhole where everybody is sort of held hostage by a few bad guys, where the good people without guns are held hostage by the bad guys with guns. It's not. It works wonderfully. So, you know, don't let facts stop people from good rhetorical discussions in countries that have weird fixations with guns. And, you know, of course, I'm talking about Switzerland. Switzerland, I think, has the highest gun ownership rate per capita of any country in the world, actually. So, you know, flip it on the other side. You can live in a society with guns and still also be kind of, you know, quite safe as well. But yes, that is what's happening with that. It's an interesting article and it's worth reading. This article, which has now been labeled adult content by Blue Sky, it's literally an article about how, let me get rid of this, how are parks too sexy, nude statues. There's been a kind of a wave across Japan where cities are wanting to remove statues of naked people, which I suppose is a little bit weird. I mean, there again, Japan does have weird laws when it comes to nudity. Of course, you're not allowed to show pornographic nudity in Japan, but I think artistic nudity, statues of David and whatnot, are allowed. But people just find them embarrassing. I am glad that, although the debate is awkward, I mean, it is funny. Something I remember about classical history, about in Europe, how there were times like in Pompeii, for example. There's a fantastic example where there were lots of sexy paintings everywhere in bathhouses and so on. But what was interesting was they found some of the paintings were actually obscured by lockers. They'd been covered up. And this was because ancient Rome used to go through these phases where it's like, you know, hey, it's a big sex party. And then, you know, every 6 years, every 60 years or so, they'd suddenly have like a moment of self-awareness and embarrassment, and they'd go around covering everything up. And, you know, I remember in school hearing about there was a Roman general who spent years in a campaign waging a war, trying to knock off the phalluses of every statue in Italy, or Rome as it then was, and basically castrated every single statue, which apparently to be fair, apparently the statue phallus situation was getting wildly out of control, but apparently it bothered a particular general enough that they basically waged a war on the private parts of their own statues. So, you know, and then a few years later they were putting them on again. I mean, who knows? But societies do this. They go put naked statues up, and then somebody's like suddenly becomes uncomfortable. And Japan is doing that. What I do appreciate is that nobody is asking, what would Jesus do? It is nice to be in a country where we can have debates about whether it's okay to have naked statues everywhere and not feel like this is going to condemn us all to the fire pit of hell. for having this in our local park, which I think may infect debate in other locations. It is literally people just debating. They just say that it looks yeah, some people just aren't comfortable looking at naked people, so they're going around the park saying, hey, maybe we should put something. Like we are still far away from removing statues of Confederate war leaders and so on. We have no particular issues like that, but apparently a couple of boobs can be a little bit too much for some old people, and they are reconsidering that at the moment. So that is a thing. I wonder if there were collector items. Who knows? There probably were. Black Tengu makes an excellent point. Maybe it is for the best. Johnny Somali and whatnot. I mean, this is the thing, and I think the article does mention people doing Johnny Somali type things. There is an increasing problem of course, with more foreign tourists in Japan. 36 million. There's a lot of them are driving cars, and Japan drives on a side of the road that is, while being the obviously correct side of the road, is also not compatible with the side of the road that Napoleon converted Europe over to in the 19th century, and that later became, unfortunately and regrettably, a global standard. So the result is that while only a few countries, including my own and the countries that I have lived in, all remain on the correct side of the road, when people come here and they've been driving on the confused side of the road that Napoleon invented, that they occasionally find themselves driving into oncoming traffic and having terrible accidents. And this is made even worse, of course, when there is exceptionally stunning scenery out the window like Mount Fuji. Apparently around Mount Fuji, foreigners are crashing their cars a lot, and sometimes having serious crashes, like fatal crashes. So it's not actually a laughing matter. I do think that I do recall, I think it was about 2017, Elon did promise us that all cars would become self-driving within about 3 months. So I expect that should fix this whole issue if all the cars just drive themselves. I sincerely am really looking forward actually to self-driving cars coming and kind of fixing all of these problems. By the way, we have the same problem in New Zealand, of course, and we're a much smaller population country. And we've had the debate in New Zealand when an American, would drive on the wrong side of the road and crash. Even New Zealand, we sort of said, hey, maybe we should just change over and be like America. Because, we're not really going to assert. New Zealand doesn't have a history of carrying swords. Japan does have a thing where apparently the way that Japanese pass is partly linked to the way that Japanese would stock their swords. Apparently it was the same with Romans. Romans were on the same side of the road as Japan. And, you have your sword away on the left, so they go on a side that swords will not bump into each other, because if someone taps on someone else's sword, even by accident, apparently someone's going to die or lose a limb at that point. So there is a thing where fundamentally, yes, the way that Japan drives is part of the contributing thing. Also, foreigners, please be careful if you're driving. I mean, Mount Fuji is wonderful, but try looking at the road and staying on the correct side for Japan when you're doing that. I think actually self-driving cars would be quite awesome from a tourism perspective. I mean, you could actually get tourists to go to more and more locations, and they wouldn't have all the stress of driving in a country where they can't read the signs and so on. Hey, BDBGP, great to see you, man. Thanks always for voting. Thanks for always being in the chat as well. It's been I do appreciate all of that, and I hope that you share my assessment that I think our mashup contests are getting better. I think we're both getting better at mashing. And the contests are now getting down to just what's the music that you like. It's really, I'm really stoked actually the way that those are going. And I very much appreciate that you are a regular both in this chat and in supporting those. By the way, KOTGC, nice to see you in the chat also. We've got 13 minutes left. I think that's pretty much all of the topics I had prepared for tonight. However, other things that I have found during the week that are interesting, like I said, it's been a bit of a slow news week anyway. I like rugby, of course. I watch rugby. There's a YouTube channel called Squidge Rugby that, while doesn't talk ever about Japanese rugby, they do fantastic analysis of rugby games. If you like rugby, it's a must subscribe channel. So they did a little list if they were going to do a Mount Rushmore of Japanese rugby. Who would be on that? And you might know nothing about rugby, but if you've been in Japan anytime in the last 10 years, you would know, for example, that guy in the middle of the thumbnail, Michael Leach, born in New Zealand, I think to a New Zealand and a Fijian parent. He moved to Japan when he was 13. He's now I think he's close to my age. I think he's in his mid-40s now, maybe early 40s. He still is the absolute. He's one of the greatest players of all time. He did his schooling in Japan. He actually says that he considers that he's more comfortable speaking Japanese than English now, and he's one of the most popular figures in Japan. Whenever he gets the ball in games, tens of thousands of people shout "Leech." You know, they love him, and he's a fantastic player. Another really interesting one, Eddie Jones, the Japanese current national coach who coached Japan to the biggest upset win in rugby history at the World Cup. How long ago now? About 12 years ago now, where they beat South Africa. They beat one of the world's greatest sides at a time when that side was also very strong. So just as that coach, he probably gets a place on that as well as some other people. But yeah, it's a nice talk about the history of Japanese rugby, which goes back a long way. It's been played in Japan since the 19th century. In fact, actually, my grandfather was an international test rugby referee, and he was invited to come over to Japan in the 1930s. He was quite old when he had my dad. We've got a scrapbook. We grew up at home with this, with all these pre-war Japanese rugby magazines and presents from the Japanese rugby board from when he supported a tour and test matches involving the Japanese rugby team in the 1930s. So and there was a thriving rugby culture in Japan, even going back that far. And it's kind of been different and in isolation to the New Zealand, Australia, and the European sort of rugby. So yeah, it's pretty cool that they talked about that anyway. I appreciated that. We've got Kobasechi, still no word on the meteor over Japan. You're disappointed. The meteor? You mean is there a comet? Meteors just happen in 1 second. There was the airport camera did detect a big fireball, I think over Osaka, was it? That was kind of cool. But speaking of meteors, I watched a terrible movie today. In fact, I've broken it up into 3 or 4 sections, and I'm still only gotten 40 minutes through a 90-minute movie. The War of the Worlds. That is a really bad movie. It's about meteors that have aliens in them, and it's really bad. I mean, I'm watching it to assess if it's one of those it's so bad it's good movies. But so far, it's just so bad that it's bad. Anyway, I don't know, so I can't really recommend it. I don't know if that's what you're talking about the meteor over Japan, but there was that. Question from Quentin Rankett: how does the nativist right wing in Japan feel about all those sports heroes? It was interesting. I think at the moment, a lot of conservatives love rugby. In fact, Yoshiro Mori, Japan's worst ever prime minister and symbolic of everything bad about the far right of the LDP, is a prolific rugby player, and I think he was chairman of the Japanese Rugby Football Union. And while I think there was a feeling when I came to Japan 25 years ago that foreign players in the Japanese national rugby team were mercenaries, remember England, most rugby teams, France, England, New Zealand, have foreign players that, just like Leach, came to the countries as immigrants when they were teenagers, and now play for the national team in New Zealand. No one really questions when, those sort of things happen. But somehow people always felt like it didn't look right for someone who doesn't look Japanese to be in the Japanese team. So there used to be a lot of discussion about that, where, there was a time when the Japanese national rugby team was like more than half foreign-born players. And some people said, is this really the Japan team? But the thing is, now a lot of those players are so established. Many of them are Japanese citizens. Many of them are people who have been basically raised their entire lives since they were kids in Japan and come up not as import like players who were brought in, as ring-ins who play very well, but actually developed within the Japanese rugby development framework. Fortunately or unfortunately, Japanese rugby is a very conservative and right-wing sort of establishment, and they are the ones who coached these foreign players. So in a way, having foreign players come up and be successful as Japanese rugby players kind of validates Japanese rugby. And obviously, Japanese League One is like an all-stars tournament. It's a bit like the Major League Soccer in the US, where they got a lot of the best rugby players in the world to come and play in this competition. It's definitely raised the level of Japanese rugby. So, and I think as well, right-wingers in Japan, who are often rugby fans, they do like the validation of seeing Japanese, in spite of their small size, being competitive against big foreign players, which I think Japan genuinely is competitive now. So, no, I think that discussion has changed, but it certainly used to be a lot more. There used to be a lot of debate about that I think has gone away, partly because of people like Leach. And by the way, Eddie Jones, who I just mentioned, the legendary Australian citizen coach of Japan, his mother is Japanese, and he grew up speaking Japanese. He doesn't speak great Japanese, honestly, but he can speak Japanese, and he loves Japan. And so Japan sort of recognizes he's a foreigner with Japanese heritage, and he gets a kind of a special category of treatment as well, different to Leach. But nobody, I think now people are very comfortable. Even conservative people are comfortable saying that it's not even honorary. Leach is Japanese. Dan H. Japan international rice prices are at their lowest prices, I guess since 2018 is what you mean, due to India stopping exports of rice. Yet Japan has record levels of rice prices. We've talked about this before. This is just fundamentally a combination. It's overall mismanagement by the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries, which of course in Japan exerts old-fashioned socialist type control over production of agriculture in Japan, and they both mismanaged the overall how much rice to grow. There were some droughts, and those were poorly managed because they were encouraging Japanese. They were paying, like they do in Europe, they were paying farmers to grow less rice to sort of increase the price. But when a drought accompanied people being told not to grow rice, there were all of a sudden shortages. And even when they recovered those shortages, and they have warehouse stock rice you can keep in warehouses and keep a kind of a rice mountain of secure supply. They basically allowed some of their mates to distribute that rice, and they all decided that they would take advantage by withholding the prices and withholding the rice and artificially inflating the prices. And that is still happening. And even though the Japanese government allowed online shopping sites, Rakuten and Amazon, to distribute the rice in order to cut out the people who were sort of withholding the distribution and ramping up the prices, and that has had some effect, it still hasn't made up for all the other problems, which are basically, it's purely human mismanagement of the rice production system in Japan. And everyone knows this, and it's why the LDP did, it's a big part of why the LDP did so badly in the last election. I mean, I think the price of rice, inflation generally, people complain, but when you're talking about something that you have with every meal has gone up 100% in price over 1 year, people will say inflation is out of control and I haven't had a pay rise. So everybody feels poor. Rice really makes people feel that. So, it's the mismanagement of agriculture, which Japan, for its own reasons decides it needs to exert control over. And when it does that and it doesn't manage it, right now the backlash is directly on the Japanese government, on the LDP. And all this saying that we're going to restrict foreigners to improve votes, I think they should focus on getting the rice problem sorted out, honestly. But there we go. But also people are eating less rice. This is just another thing, and it's another reason why they were reducing production. Because again, all this bullshit with the rice. Bread is actually a lot easier to prepare on short notice. Rice, cooking is a hassle, although there are solutions. But a lot of people are choosing to get their carbs other ways nowadays. So you've got all of that. Dan H pointing out the English cricket team is always stealing players from abroad. Yes, of course. I mean, and the rugby team and so on. But whether you call that stealing, I mean, New Zealand does it. Every country does it. And look, it's one thing to go to another country and steal, but most countries have requirements that they have to be resident, and they have to do something to demonstrate that they are legitimately a player for that country. Like they're not allowed to play for anyone else, and they have to be a resident of the country for how many years. And if people are really doing that, like that's kind of like recognizing permanent residents as being the same as Japanese, which for the purposes of representation, I think is a good thing. Anyway, so what else have we got in here? We've got, apparently, with all the interest in the heat in Tokyo, the Tokyo government has issued a detailed heat map so that people who aren't sure whether it's hot enough can look up onto the internet and see that, oh, it's particularly hot in my part of Tokyo, and I should be aware that since it is hot, I should be careful of heat stroke, because thousands of people every day are suffering from heat stroke in Tokyo at the moment. So their response is, yes, we should provide a map that will tell people who are not sure if whether it's hot or not in the part of Tokyo that they're in. They can look at this and see, oh, it is hot, and I should drink water. I drank like 3 liters of this today, partly because of my Joe Rogan impersonation program, but also partly because it is incredibly hot. And I went to the gym today. So yes, if you want to have, I think this is taking atsui desu ne. It's hot today, isn't it, to the next level where you can, yes, it is too hot. You don't even need to look out the window anymore. You can just look on your smartphone or on the internet and know that the place where you are is incredibly hot. Speaking of incredibly hot, the MASH battle, go check it out, go vote, because I think we both did a fantastic job. And that's all the links I have for this week, and we are 2 minutes ahead. I'm going to set up the after party, and because it's a Saturday night and I don't care. I'll take requests. Sainted Sir, great to see you. Great to see you. Good morning, New York City. Again, apologies for people coming caught off guard by the change in schedule. I am out tomorrow night, so I'm going to re-upload this at the normal time for tomorrow night for people who expect to see it there. Eder, great to see you. Yeah, news at 11. It's hot in Tokyo in summer. You shouldn't come here. Dan H attempting to distract me at the last minute, but I am in wrap-up mode. P. Morton, great to see you. It is cooler than Tokyo in every way possible because you're closer to the ocean down there, but that is nice, but it still is stinking hot down there. You've really got to get up to Hokkaido pretty much. Or, ironically, Okinawa. Okinawa is the furthest south in Japan, but because it's all surrounded by ocean, it's cooler down there. Anyway, I'm going to do the after party, so do come and join me for that. I'm going to post the link. I think I posted the link at the start of the chat. I should have pinned it. Actually, can someone? Oh, Aaron, you've done it. Aaron's posted the link to the after party. I'm going to be playing sort of a lot of my own music, but hell, it's a party. I'll take requests as well. So I'll see you over there in a minute. And because I can sleep in tomorrow morning, I'm going to enjoy the party, and I'm not going to be stressed out about wrapping up. So come keep me company, and feel free to boogie. I will see you all next week at the normal time on Sunday. And thank you for keeping me company tonight. Remember to like the video. I do appreciate it. And it is the only thing that I do this thing for. I just do it for the likes and the validation. It gets me through the week. What can I say? I'll see you all next week. Sandwich. I don't know why people keep talking about sandwiches, but yes, indeed. I'll see you all later, and boom, peace. See you over on the after party.